Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Captain Dave Martin, Health and Safety Officer for Yakima County Fire District 5. You are listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple, to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today just after returning home from spending a week at the International Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis. It was absolutely awesome to meet up with so many of the podcast listeners and the blog readers and students from previous classes. Man, I got really jazzed there. I taught a program called Flawed Situational Awareness Lightning Round, where I discussed 30 of the most challenging barriers to situational awareness. Barriers like the pre-arrival lens, confirmation bias, task fixation, tunneled vision, tunneled hearing, task fixation, multitasking, short-term memory overload, confabulation, hallucinations, change blindness, mission myopia, and so many more. Really had a good time with the audience. Ran an exercise or two there to demonstrate some of the challenges with situational awareness, and it was great. Had super feedback, and thanks for everybody who attended that. Thanks to Penwell Publishing for the opportunity to do a book signing when I was there at the conference. That was awesome to have so many stop by and buy a book and to visit with me. Thanks also to Midwest Fire, the sponsor of this podcast, for letting me hang out in their booth for a while and meet some of their customers. It was impressive to see those customers just coming into the booth and spontaneously start talking about how happy they are with their Midwest Fire apparatus. While impressed with that, I wasn't terribly surprised. They build an awesome fire truck. If you're in the market for getting an engine or a tanker pumper or a brush truck, their all poly design is changing the way fire apparatus are built. So check them out, and I think you'll be impressed. In today's episode, I interview Captain Brian Mulligan from the Atascocita Volunteer Fire Department in Texas. On May 12, 2012, Brian responded to a close call event for a report of a gas leak on the outside of a house that was struck by a construction crew. And as you'll learn in this interview, there was a lot more to this call than just a gas leak. So let's jump in on our interview with Captain Brian Mulligan.
On Saturday, May 12th, 2012, I was on duty with the Atascocita Volunteer Fire Department. I was riding as the company officer on Engine 19. A little bit about our department. We cover about 33 square miles of northeast Harris County. We have about 30 paramedics and about 100 volunteer firefighters, about 20 or 30 part-time firefighters. Our volunteers run 12-hour shifts, either at night during the week, or we cover the whole day during the weekends. This was one of those weekend shifts. There were 3 members on duty, myself, the driver, and a firefighter in the back. About 10 a.m., we were dispatched to a reported gas leak, and what we found when we got there was, en route, we were told that it was a ruptured line that they were working on leveling the house, and that they'd cut into a gas line. Upon arrival, we staged about 5 houses back. And me and the firefighter walked up, and we talked with the foreman of the crew, and he said that it was on the Bravo side. So my firefighter and I donned our face pieces. We evacuated the work crew and the family out of the house and down the street closer to our engine. And we knocked on doors on houses on either side. The only people that were home were on the side of the gas leak, so we got them out and got them down the street by our engine.
Could you guys smell gas?
We couldn't until we got up next to the house. Once we got next to the house, we could smell it pretty good.
Did you have a meter?
It was venting away. We did have a meter. Yeah. Our LEL was at I don't have the figure right here, but I remember we didn't get anything in the street. We didn't get anything until we got between the two houses, and it had kind of collected and kind of stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really a breeze. There was a breeze in the area that day, but not right there. The houses were pretty tight together, so it wasn't really getting through that well. So we donned our face pieces and we walked up next to the house to where the hole was, and we found it was blowing dirt out of the hole. So we saw that and assessed that it was about 2.5-inch line running underground. So we backed up. We had the engine move based on the fact that we didn't have any readings in the street. We had the engine move up where we could more efficiently deploy a hose line. And we requested another engine company. Their main reason, two reasons that we requested another engine company was to have a backup crew, a RIT team, if you will, and specifically we requested Engine 39 because Engine 39 was equipped with a gas plant. None of the other trucks have it. So the crew assembled. Now, when a second out truck is requested or needed in our department, they're coming from home. So, but we do have an on-duty chief. So when we made the request for the additional engine, the chief came. So the chief arrived promptly. But the engine took some time. So we had some time to sit back and think about it, come up with a game plan. Centerpoint had already been requested. That's our gas company here. They handle all the power, electrical and gas. And so we were basically just waiting. So we came up with a game plan, made sure that the houses were still evacuated, made sure that the street was blocked off, requested law enforcement to block off the ends of the streets, make sure that no cars got in. And then we went down the street and we just talked to everybody and made sure that they knew what was going on and to try and stay inside. And that way, if anything did happen, they would have some protection. They wouldn't be right up next to it. And it would be one less thing that we would have to worry about if something should have occurred. So we tried to cover all our bases from that standpoint. The second engine, Engine 39, arrived on location and spoke with the company officer there. We assembled our equipment. We already had a line on the ground. And
Brian, how many people were on your crew?
My crew was 3.
And how many came on Engine 39?
They actually got they got 3.
Okay. And your vehicle was what? Engine what?
My vehicle was Engine 19. I was Engine 19 Alpha.
Okay. And then how many came on Engine 39?
3.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So we came up with a game plan. We talked about it real quick. Gave them what we had, as far as, what the story was and what the situation we were being faced with and whatnot. and told him what I planned on doing. We both agreed, and
what did you tell him?
Decided. So what I told him, what I wanted to do was to have his crew stand on the backup line, or on the protection line, and they were going to sit at the edge of the driveway just before you got next to the house. It's like they weren't, based on our LEO readings, that was what we deemed as the kind of the neutral plane of safety. You know, we kind of kept them on that side of it, kept them out of the hot zone area. So he was good with that. I told him that we were going to use their gas plant, and we were going to go in with a shovel, and we were going to dig out around the line. It still needed to be exposed some, so we were going to dig out around the line and clamp it, and everything was going to be good. And then we just, they could be released, and we were just going to sit with it. He agreed, and they took a position on the backup line. Everybody was in full PPE, full structural PPE, hoods, helmets, masks, gloves, all of that. In addition, we had established a 5-inch supply line into engine 39 and had ponied a section because we'd already stretched the line off of engine 19. They ponied a section of 5-inch over to engine 19 so that we'd have a patent water supply, again, just in case should something happen. Everything would be squared away and good to go. We went in, and we went into the hot zone, and I started digging first. Command was assumed from me by District 69, and we went in and started to dig. I went in and started to dig and had my firefighter just positioned slightly behind me, so if anything happened, he could assist me, and he would kind of be blocked in case anything happened. Started to dig.
Could you?
Yes.
Could you see gas? Or not see. Could you hear gas flowing?
We could hear gas flowing. It was flowing with pressure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it was the typical kind of a dull roar. Well, not dull, but kind of a the high pitched, small opening, high pressure, all that stuff. So we could hear that. It was pretty loud. So we were communicating. We were having to get right next to each other's head to, talking into each other's ear to make sure that we heard each other. He was, fully aware, good to go with the plan. So we were communicating very well with each other as far as, here's the plan. This is what we're looking to do. This is what we're watching out for, yada, 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 kind of thing. So everybody was aware and abreast of the plan. So I dug out one side of the line, got a pretty good hole worked down, but we weren't quite there yet. So he tapped me on the shoulder and said that he was ready to go to work and allowed me to take a break. So I stepped back, and he dug for a few minutes, and he said that now something about digging any kind of a hole anywhere in our district. We have this really, really crappy clay, and it's just a pain to dig through. So any digging that you're going to do, you're going to be there a while.
How deep was the hole, Brian, that was already there? I mean, give me an idea.
So the hole that was already present was probably 2 foot deep.
And how big around? Were you standing down in the hole?
No, sir. We were over it. It was probably 3 feet across.
Okay. Or
so, kind of an oblong 3 foot across.
Okay.
so we're, and it was up against the house too, because they were putting piers in. So it was just kind of a really odd angle to try and dig at. Mm-hmm. There were certain spots that you couldn't really get any leverage. So it's kind of a pain. So he was digging, and he came out of the hole, and I talked to him, and I said, well, hey, why don't you take a break, and I'll dig some more. And he said, well, there's this root right here that we need to cut. I can't get anywhere else. We can't really dig anywhere on this side without getting this root out of the way. Which, much like anywhere else, it's a problem for us. Lots of roots everywhere, and they just kind of grow around things, and so, not unlike anywhere else in the country or the world. So I said, all right, well, take a breather and kind of step back, and I'll jump in there, and I'll bust up that root, or at least I'll start to try. So I got in there and kind of tried to pull on the root, and when I was pulling on it,
Did you pull them by hand, or were you kind of like pulling on it with a shovel?
Yeah, I reached in by hand, and I was kind of trying. Well, I started to chip away at it with the shovel, and then I started to reach in by hand and kind of try to pull it back and try and wiggle it and make some room and kind of pull it up and away. That wasn't really effective. It wasn't going anywhere. I thought maybe because there was a big oak tree, I figured it was a root from that oak tree right there in the backyard. I'm sorry, I keep saying oak tree. So I figured it was from that, and I figured we might be far enough away that I'm, near the end of the root, so maybe I can just kind of pull it up and kind of break it and just push it out of the way. It shouldn't take very long. That wasn't working. It wasn't moving, so I took the shovel and used the blade of the shovel to chop at this root. And I chopped at it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and then kind of scraped some of the dirt away. The dirt was kind of acting like an armor. That clay, it's kind of caked up on there. Mm-hmm. And it was, it's this orangish, this kind of burnt orange clay. And so I was kind of pushing some of that off to the side, and I took 2 more good hits at it and made good solid contact. And on the second hit, it arced off in my face. I immediately rolled backwards out of the hole, still having no clue what just happened. Nothing else occurred. So I grabbed my firefighter and we backed up and just kind of talked about it. And I asked him if he saw what just happened. And he said no, he couldn't see past me. And I said, well, something just sparked. I must have hit a rock, and sparked off of that. And he said, okay. I said, well, let's go back. Nothing. It doesn't seem like anything is happening. It doesn't seem like anything's going to react. So let's go back over there and let's go look at what it was, and we'll keep digging. It seems like everything's fine now. So I went over there and I laid on my belly again, and started looking closer at where I was, and the dirt had kind of fallen back in there. So I had to look really close and see exactly where I hit it. And I could see wires. And I said, well, that's really weird. I just kind of thought to myself, well, that's really weird. I wonder what that's for. And then I started to break the clay off more, and I realized that the orange of the clay was kind of blocking the orange of the high voltage line that was going into the house. Or the big power line that was going, that powered the whole house. At that time, even though nothing else was happening, based on the fact that they were in such close proximity and not wanting to aggravate anything else. We backed out and just kind of shut down operations and waited for the power company. At that point, they were about 15 minutes away. So we
so this, when you hit that with a shovel, it arced right in the presence of flowing gas.
Yes, sir.
So probably the only thing that kept it from igniting was maybe the gas environment was too rich for the arc to light the gas off.
Yes, sir.
Wow. At what point, Brian, did you think to yourself, I must be the luckiest man in Texas today?
It probably wasn't until we were done and back at the station.
Okay, well then let's keep talking about the event, then we'll talk about back at the station.
So the rest of the event, I was feeling a mixture of confusion, and I'll be honest, I was kind of ticked off because I wasn't quite sure what was going on. So when the center point guy got there, and so he walked up, and I said, he said, hey, what you got? And I said, why don't you come look at this? So I redonned all of my PPE, and the gas company guys kind of do it a little bit different. So I'm fully packed out, and we walked back there, and I said, well, that's the line. And he said, okay. And
was he gas or electric?
He was gas.
Okay.
And I said, well, there's your line. And he said, okay. And he kind of looked at me weird because he saw the clamp as he was walking up, and he goes, so why didn't you clamp it? I said, because see that right there? He goes, yeah, that root. I said, yeah, that's not a root. That's the power line for the house. And he looked, and we looked at the side of the house, and I had already realized that the power, the box, the meter, was about 10 feet towards the front of the house on the Bravo side. So again, that not being in proximity, I didn't even think that was, I didn't even think about that being a problem with this.
Right.
He looked at it and went, well, that's really weird. I wonder why that line is right there. I said, okay. I said, so what do you want to do? He said, well, let's dig up the front yard. Okay. So he got his, his switching rods and his meters and all that stuff, and he found the gas line, and we dug out the middle of the front yard, and we clamped it off there, there in the middle of the yard, far away from everything. The reason we picked the front yard, obviously because, that's where it was flowing from. In our area, the gas and water come from the street, and the electric comes from the backyard. I don't know why they did it that way, probably to keep gas and electric away from each other, but...
yeah, that seems like a good idea.
but they're not supposed to cross.
Right.
Ever. So he was confused as much as I was. And what we had found was that about 3 feet away, they made the cross where the electric crossed over the gas line, and so we never saw it. And they will come out. Centerpoint will come out, and they will mark everything, and they'll spray a yellow line for gas and an orange line for electric and all that stuff if you're going to do any kind of digging. But this company didn't request that. So there was no kind of marking or indication of what was under there when we we started digging. So we clamped the line. I think in amongst that happening, we received a box alarm while we were still on scene. So the second engine was gone when the center point guy showed up, because we didn't absolutely need them. So we because we were in a holding pattern, so we released them from the scene and they responded to the fire. But they came back to pick up their hose, and so they helped us dig the hole and clamp off the line. But yeah, so that was that, and it wasn't until we got back to the station that I kind of started thinking about it, and I went, wow, that could have been really bad. And that's when I decided I wrote up an article for Firefighter Close Calls, Chief Goldfeder's website, and just started thinking about it more and what I could do to help prevent that from happening in the future. So I began doing research and wrote up a SOG for my fire department for gas leak response. In that SOG, we changed the way that we approach gas leaks inside the house or inside of a building and outside. And we kind of changed how we looked at those things.
Prior to that, did you have an SOG for gas response?
No, sir. Okay,
Brian, then if you didn't have an SOG and you do now, what has changed as a result of having the SOG?
In our department, we changed the way we respond to gas leaks inside of structures and outside gas leaks. As far as inside gas leaks, when we arrive on location, we stage away. Inside gas leaks get an engine, the tower, and a chief. So we stage away from the structure, we walk up, and we'll speak with the homeowner or the representative and find out what's going on. And if they tell us that they have a leak, it smells like gas, they can hear a leak, things of that nature, we're just going to go up and turn off the meter. And then we'll continue to assess the situation with our monitoring equipment and such as that. But we try not to, we do not go in and clamp lines inside the house or anything like that. From there, we'll work backwards, as far as, where did they smell it and things of that nature. And really all we'll use our monitoring equipment for at that point is figuring out if that solved the problem, understanding that we could, have a bad meter or something like that. And so we'll continue to monitor it from that standpoint and try and figure out, well, where was it, and work it back to a room and get the levels down. And then we can also help Centerpoint whenever they get there and say, hey, here's where it was in this area or whatever. As far as outside gas leaks, we've changed it to where we're not going to do anything. We block off the street, and we use our monitoring equipment to try and isolate and create a hot and warm zone, and then we'll assess the need for either shelter in place or evacuation based on our meter readings with our apparatus well away from the scene. Additionally, we get a hazmat truck on both of those instances. most of the time for inside gas leak. They're disregarded because we're able to mitigate with the meter. Outside gas leaks, they've assisted with mitigating the incident. They've assisted with monitoring if it's beyond even what their capabilities are. So that's gone very well, and we're extremely blessed where we're at because the county hazmat team is about 5 minutes down the road from us.
So that's a mutual aid call
right
for you guys to call in the hazmat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but they're a county entity, and they're actually right at the border between us and another neighboring fire department.
Now, are they staffed all the time, or do they have to come in and staff it?
Yes, sir. They're staffed 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
I think their present staffing is 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 2 on their foam engine and 2 on their hazmat truck, the big truck.
This SOP that you created, Brian, did you create that from scratch, or did you like go out on the internet and search out, gas leak SOPs? I mean, where did you draw the information from to help you to create that for somebody who might be inspired to do the same thing?
Yeah, I like most great SOG writers, I borrowed from Phoenix Fire Department.
Mm-hmm.
We used their gas leak response, their natural gas response SOG as a template. We added some of our own things to it, but for the most part, it's their SOG, and that's what we followed. As far as our metering, our monitoring numbers and things like that, we kept all of their stuff in there. We just changed a couple of regional things as far as apparatus. Being a small fire department, we can't operate like Phoenix or Houston or Dallas or places like that, where if you call for a box, you're going to get 3 engines and they're all going to be on top of each other. We have to operate a little bit differently, operate a little bit more cautious. And there are times when you're on your own, just second in engines 10, 15 minutes away. And you just have to, you have to use good judgment. And that's one of the other things that we wanted to do was we wanted to have some hard and fast things, but we didn't want to limit our company officers because they're all smart guys, and they all got a good head on their shoulders. We didn't want to limit them to, you will absolutely, without question, under no circumstances, blah blah blah. We wanted to give them, the ability to change and adapt as needed. So what we did with that was we removed the gas clamp from engine 39, but we placed it on our duty chief vehicle. So it's still available, but it's only to be used in absolute emergencies and only by hazmat techs. And there's about 5 of us on the department between the part-time paid and volunteers, and about 5 hazmat techs. So, there's a chance, there's a good chance that one of us will be either on duty or available, and we can respond. Because there is potential, we're a very industrial area around Houston, and the county hazmat team may very well be way over on the other side of town, and there's going to be either they can't get away or it's going to be 30 minutes before they can get there. We have other options, but that's at that point would all be up to the company officer, the first due company officer, and the duty chief putting their heads together and come up with a plan that's the safest for our citizens and our firefighters.
What was your personal takeaways from this?
My personal takeaways, see everything, but I guess accept nothing. Like, don't take it for what you're looking at. Find out and make sure. So don't take for granted that, well, it's a tree root because there's a tree, and that makes sense, and things like that. That was kind of I don't know if bonehead is the right word, but it's just kind of I just kind of looked at it and went, well, there's a tree. This must be a tree root. Mm-hmm. And nothing really else ever entered my mind.
Well, I think we would, I think intuitively believe that gas and electric lines wouldn't cross over each other like that.
Yeah.
So I think that can help drive you to what appears to be an obvious conclusion that it's a tree root. I mean, for what else would it be if gas and electric are not supposed to cross over each other, right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the future, because I work other places and because they haven't necessarily adopted what I think is the right thing to do as far as gas leak response, there are situations that I've had to go in and clamp off a line or things like that. And so if I'm ever in that situation again, I will absolutely scrape away the side of the bark of the tree root before I start to chop into it. I'm going to make for absolutely sure that it's a tree root. Or anything for that matter. I'm going to make sure before I haul off and put a blade of a shovel into it, what I'm getting myself into first.
Did your department do any kind of a after-action review, or, hey, let's all gather up for a short drill and let Brian tell us about what happened at this incident? Was there any kind of broader department lessons learned or sharing that resulted from this?
There was a drill. We had about 3 SOGs come out about the same time about different things, and so we did a Tuesday night drill and then a Saturday drill, where we went over all of those things and kind of got to talk about, hey, this is what we made, this is what we saw, things of that nature, to try and raise awareness, make sure everybody was squared away and understood what was going on and things like that. So.
Mm-hmm. And
yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you were married then or single, but whoever you would normally go home to, did you go home and tell them what happened?
No, I didn't. She wouldn't have been very happy. She since heard the story, but I don't want to have that conversation that night. Mm-hmm. So we didn't talk about it right then, but I told her a little bit later what had happened, and I think it was while I was working on the SOG, and I told her, hey, this is what happened, and this is what I'm doing to fix it. And so she was pretty happy with that. She didn't give me too hard of a time. So.
Does she have any concept of how close that event was for you both? I mean, you had like a double whammy there. You could have got electrocuted, or you could have ignited the gas. Either one. Does she have any concept of how close that was for you?
I think she does. Yeah, mm-hmm. I think she picked up on it when I started talking about it. Mm-hmm. And anything electricity, she had, obviously she understood that could be that could be a big deal. I don't think that she, I don't know, but I don't think that she could maybe understood the LEL and the UEL and all that stuff, you know, and why it didn't, and things like that. But yeah, it was a good experience. We were engaged at the time. We got married about 6 months later, and now we have our first little one.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah, it's outstanding.
That was recently, right?
Yeah, she's a month on last Thursday.
Wow.
She's a month old last Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, wow. What a great time in your household.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mom's going to go out in a little bit. It's going to be daddy daycare here in a minute. So.
Outstanding. Well, Brian, thank you for taking some time to share your close call experience. And I think that there's some valuable takeaways for those that are listening, and not the least being how important it is to always have a level of vigilance and to not take things for granted. It's very easy for all of us in the moment to make certain assumptions and then only find out later that our assumptions were false. And in your case, this whole thing of the gas and electric line being in such close proximity, crossing over each other, is just so highly unusual that I think anybody out there could find themselves in a similar spot. So I think that you taking the time and having the courage to share this is perhaps going to save someone the potential of having something worse than a close call as a result of your experience. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And one other thing I'd like to add is, with all the precautions that we took, and establishing water spotting, getting the line on the ground, everybody was dressed and all of that. And it's when you think you've got it all taken care of, when you think you know exactly what's going on and you've covered all your bases, it's probably when you don't. So that's one of the things that I try to think about now is, hey, I think I've got everything, and what else? So
yeah, what else? That's a good question to ask yourself. What else? What am I missing? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Brian, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Well, that truly was a close call. Before I started the interview, in my conversation with Brian, he said, Rich, I'm not really sure if what happened to me would, count as a close call. I've listened to the episodes, and you're interviewing people who've been caught in flashovers and people who've been hit by cars and people who've fallen through floors. We didn't have any bad outcome from this. And I said, Brian, the definition of a close call is anything that if the circumstances were just slightly different, the outcome could have been catastrophic. And truly, for you here, if the circumstances were just slightly different, the outcome for you could have been catastrophic. And that is a close call. And that is the reason for this show. And that is why we have the passion that we do for sharing these lessons. Before I close this episode, I want to take a moment to thank the departments and the organizations who have hosted some Situational Awareness Matters tour stops recently. Your efforts to bring the situational awareness and decision-making classes to your region is really, really appreciated. The U.S. Forest Service and the McCall Smoke Jumpers. And by the way, I'm going to do a ride-along with the Smoke Jumpers and the Wildland Firefighters at Payette Mountain in August. So thanks to Dave Lapachelle for arranging that. And you can bet you'll hear more about how that experience went. Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety, thanks for hosting 2 programs. Vacaville Fire Department, Santa Clara County Fire Department, thanks for hosting 2 programs. The New Hampshire Emergency Dispatchers Conference, thanks for the opportunity to share the keynote. Do you see what I hear? Was the keynote there, helping dispatchers to make the connection with first responder situational awareness as it's developed through the assistance of dispatchers, a critical role for us as responders. the Saskatchewan Association of Fire Chiefs. Thank you for the opportunity to do the keynote and 2 breakout sessions there. The Fire Department Instructors Conference, and thanks for the opportunity to present the Situational Awareness Lightning Round. If you're interested in an upcoming event that you might want to attend, if it's near you, the Peace Regional Fire Conference in Peace River, Alberta, I'll be there May 1. I'll be in Greenfield, Indiana for a week-long Company Officer Development Institute program. I love this class. It's 5 days, no PowerPoint, no theories, just solutions for company officers and the challenges that they face. The whole purpose of it is to give the tools to the company officer to be successful in leading others and to help keep the problems out of the fire chief's office. Be there May 4 to 8. Then I'm going to be going to Washington State and presenting at the Joint Base Lewis McChord Military Base. It's the home of the I Corps and the 62nd Airlift Wing. 4 days there, May 11 to 14. I'm not sure if that one's open to outsiders, but you can, if you're in that area, you can reach out to the folks at the Joint Base Fire Department and see if there's a way to get in on that. I'll be at the Alabama Fire College on May 16th, doing a full-day program and then keynoting their banquet in the evening. And then Frisco Fire Department, May 27 and 28. If you're interested in attending an upcoming SA Matters tour event, just head over to SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage that says Upcoming Event Schedule. Here's hoping that there's a tour event near you, and you and I'll get a chance to meet up. I love that. If you're not a member of the SA Matters community of learners yet, please consider joining. There are more than 5,000 sharing the ideas on how to improve situational awareness and make better decisions under stress. The membership is free, and when you sign up, you'll receive a special report that I've created for new members called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. It's short and sweet, just 25 lessons that you can apply in your department or to see if your department are doing those things that can make the situational awareness of your members strong. If you're not a member, head over to the SA Matters website, click on the red box on the right side of the homepage that says Free Membership. As a reminder, every episode of the SA Matters radio show has a corresponding show notes page on the samatters.com website. The most recent episodes scroll on the front of the homepage. For the older episodes, to access those, you just type in samatters.com / and then the episode number, which I always mention at the beginning of the show. So, for example, if you wanted to listen to, say, episode 50, you would just open up a browser, put in the samatters.com / 50, and that'll take you to a page that contains a link to the episode. You can play the show right from that link, or you can go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio and subscribe to the podcast. If you do that, I appreciate it if you give me your feedback, and if you like the show, give it a 5-star review. That'll help others find the show, by the way. That's the value of that, and it motivates me to work harder for you. If you want to get connected with me on social media, you can follow @RichGasaway or @SAMatters on Twitter. For those who are connected with me there, I send out messages related to safety and situational awareness, and occasionally videos and audios, and some information about the travels and the upcoming programs, and that's a good way to stay connected with me. The SA Matters Twitter community has almost 15,000 followers, so thanks for the support of my mission there. You can get connected with me on Facebook by liking the SA Matters page, and on LinkedIn, you can find me by searching Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. Well, that's it. Episode 53 is complete. Thank you to my guest, Brian Mulligan, for sharing his close call survivor story. Thank you to our sponsor, Midwest Fire, and thank you, our listeners, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I sincerely appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss or close call and would like to be interviewed on this show, visit samatters.com and click on the Contact Us link, and I'll thank you in advance for sharing your lessons learned so others may live. If you like the show, consider going over to iTunes and Stitcher and subscribing so that you get these episodes that come out every week. If you've been inspired and want to learn more, consider going over and visiting the website and joining the SA Matters community. And remember that that is free to do. Be safe out there. and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.